Welcome back, everyone. Today I have another video. This time we're doing a recap of what happened over the weekend on the European Championship Finals, and we're gonna also speculate as to what's gonna happen here in North America in the Nationals Finals here, and also just like to tell everyone that I'm gonna be going to Nationals, of course, and I will be there from like Wednesday through Monday. We're gonna have a long weekend there. I've never been to LA, so it's gonna be exciting. Probably going to go to Disneyland over there too. So it's going to be a fun weekend for sure. And so, so this is what happened over the weekend. The National Championship for Europe, it was 2,560 players. That is insane. That's Yu-Gi-Oh level of like attendance. I think even bigger. I think I've seen tournaments for like 2,000 people at least, but 2,560, that's insane. I hope we get something like that and the game keeps growing that way. I feel excited for what's to come on this game. It's really good that the game keeps growing that way. And then Bandai, at least if they haven't done it in the regular tournaments, at least Nationals was at least 2,500 people. They let play all those people. It could have been more because I think it sold out immediately. So it could have been even more people that could have gone to Nationals, but you know, I guess venue size, all that matters. I don't know. I don't know what's the hold up for not letting like 3,000 people play. I don't know. That's kind of a really big tournament. I don't know if it's even possible to do that big of a tournament, but yeah, I mean, it's still super fun to have to be going to Nationals for that reason. Now let's go over what happened, what decks were played. Sakatsuki, of course, and like to no one's surprise, is going to be the most played deck. Covering 778, like is double the next most play deck, which is yellow NL. So that really shows you how much of everyone thinks that this deck is like the deck to aim to beat, of course. And if you're gonna play in a Sakatsuki, I think you just need to be very well versed into the mirror match. You need to know what you're doing in that matchup. Maybe you lose to variants or whatever the case might be, but you need to at least know how to play the mirror match because it's very important to be able to make it far into the tournament, of course. Then we have Karakuri, NL, I'm sorry, that was the second best most played deck, which, I mean, no, it was Karakuri, I'm sorry, but the difference is like 10 decks. So yellow was the most represented color overall, because Karakuri and NL basically playing like some of the same cards, it's just different leaders. But they represent like the most play decks, of course. And Karakuri, if of course, because it has a decent matchup versus Sakatsuki. And which one is better between NL and Sakatsuki? It really depends on the matchup. There's some matches where NL is better. There's some matches where Karakuri is better. I think it just depends on like different factors there. So I think you have to, if you're going to play a yellow deck, you just play the one that you feel more comfortable with. Because ultimately that's what's going to come up to be the best case. Then we have some some Monkey D. Luffy's as the third most play deck, and it could have had a really good weekend. And I think one of them made it to top 8. I'll look that over later. But with so many yellow decks, and like the only problem is Sakatsuki, so you're also gonna play some of those decks. So like you're gonna have half your matchups being like a really good matchup, and then the other half being a kind of like a difficult matchup. But you also have another like underdog that showed up in big numbers, which is Zoro. It actually made a lot of the top cuts. We're gonna talk about him later. So yeah, I mean it's a I don't know if it translates here, but it probably will, since he made so many top cuts. So probably people are going to be into that deck when we come to Nationals. So something to watch out for. We have Newgate, which I think only one of them made it to top 16 or top 64. I'm not entirely sure. We're going to go to see that one later. And then we have the other decks, the decks that I expect people to play, but I don't think they're going to top. Even Law being like a minority represented there. Only 25 decks of Law. Someone was playing Black Sakatsuki. 12 people played Black Sakatsuki. I guess they didn't get the memo. But yeah, all the other ones are just like, Nami, 24 Namis, and one of them made it to top 8. So that's impressive. Nami didn't get much representation, but he got really far into the tournament. So good to the person who got that far with Nami, of course. Now let's go into the more advanced table here. Okay, so this is what top 64 looked like. And it was Sakatsuki 28 spots, so definitely had a good conversion rate for being the most played deck, of course. But it wasn't like half the meta, or it was almost half the meta, to be fair. But other decks were able to compete there and do very well. Zoro was the second most deck that had more tops into the top cut, even though it had like a quarter of what like Enel and no, not even a quarter, like 1/8 of what Enel and Karakuri had brought to the tournament. So that's impressive for Zoro. That shows that deck is still here, is decent versus Sakatsuki. I don't think he's necessarily favored, but I think he can compete against Sakatsuki. I mean, Sakatsuki, of course, the card that beats Zoro will be the Rob Lucy. But I think it can still hold its own. Even if they have a Rob Lucy, you can sneak a win with the Double Jumbles, and I think that's how you got so far into the tournament. The problem with Zoro is that Enel was the second most like conversion rate deck that came into the finals, right? And goes to show that I think Enel, as I was saying, Enel is probably better than Karakuri overall, like in a match spread. Over all the matchups, because Enel is a deck that can definitely deal with decks like Zoro, and if it was a lot of Zoro, if there was a lot of like aggressive decks, Enel can definitely deal with those decks better. And then Karakuri was the third most represented. I mean, with the amount of Karakuri that was in the tournament, that was to be expected to see a couple of them in the top 64. However, no one made it to top 8 of the Karakuri or Enel, so Yellow didn't make it to top 8, which is impressive, which goes to show how dominant the other colors or Sakatsuki is, because top 8 was 6 Sakatsukis, 1 Nami, and 1 Luffy, Purple Luffy. So, yeah, those were the decks that actually made it to the top 8. And, of course, Sakatsuki ended up winning the tournament. But, I mean, we kind of knew Sakatsuki is the best deck for that reason. It's really the most represented deck in the top cut. And you're going to see an uptick on probably players playing Sakatsuki in like nationals for the U.S. And yeah, Purple Luffy made 5% of the, 5 decks made it with Purple Luffy. So it goes to show, even though it didn't have as much representation, it was still a deck that made a lot of top, even as much as Karakuri, to be honest. And it wasn't as widely played. And that's why, because the deck is really powerful against everything that is not Sakatsuki. Like against everything else, it can definitely just compete toe to toe. I guess Zoro is a bad matchup too, but against those two matchups is like a really difficult matchup. But if you don't see too many of those decks, or you're able to sneak a win versus Sakatsuki, which is possible, then you're gonna have a good conversion rate into the top 64, of course. Then we have the Nami, which impressive. Let me tell you. Oh no, the deck that made it to top 4, I think was the red. No. Yeah, it was the Purple Luffy to top 8. And then we have a red purple Law, which I already Luffy. Which I already made a video about it. So nice on that end. And we have red purple Law, which I talked about how that deck is really like a tier 1 deck that I think it's gonna be less representation, but Law didn't see too many decks that are actually in the tournament. So the conversion rate for Law was incredible in comparison to the other decks. So nice for the Law players. I think that deck is gonna see more representation, like emboldened by like how well it did in this tournament, I think. And then we have the Lonely Whitebeard, which it's a decent deck, but I don't think it can compete versus the yellow decks, the Luffy purple decks, like the Sakatsuki decks. Even that matchup is not like 100% in their favor. It's like at least like a 50-50, a little bit favor in their end, I guess, like 45-50, 55. But yeah, it's not like the most impossible deck to beat, of course. So yeah, I do think it's going to be an interesting meta. It's still going to be a lot of Sakatsuki. That's what I'm saying. If you're going to play Sakatsuki, just know that you have to be well versed into the mirror match, because if not, you're going to have a bad matchup. You're going to have a bad day, because you're going to see a lot of Sakatsukis, and you're going to see a lot of yellow. And I think you're going to see a lot of red in terms of Zoro, because Zoro, I think, is going to go a lot of popularity. But I think also Enel is going to see a lot of popularity as well, because he has a really good matchup into Zoro, and he has a decent matchup into everything else. So yeah, those definitely decks that you want to watch out for. Karakuri, I think, is going to see less representation, actually, because maybe no. Maybe people still think that is the counter to Sakatsuki, which not exactly the case. They still need to get lucky, like in triggers, to be able to win that matchup 100%. So, yeah, it's not like the best deck to bring, to be honest. But I would rather play the Enel. I think has more options overall in their arsenal, because they have like that extra life every turn that they can heal and keep getting the extra life forever or whatever. And maybe sneak a win because they run the opponent out of resources and then they can win that way. But yeah, I mean, Nami could be another deck that see lots of play now that someone made it to top 8. So they know that. And this is reminiscent to like the Japanese meta, because someone did win last set with Nami over there. So like seeing another Nami basically with I think it was the same deck. Do it again here, make it to top 8 with the same deck. Impressive. Like I gotta say, something that the deck is really one of those decks that if you have a good day with the deck, you're gonna get far. I think is what it comes down to it. Because I do think the deck requires a lot to like hit good triggers out of life. But if you're hot and you're hitting all like the good triggers, you're gonna get there at the end. So definitely something to admire on blue. But yeah, to also, if you're gonna play Nami, don't be discouraged if you don't make it that far too, because it's a deck that requires you to play well, know your deck well, and get a little bit sacky too. But yeah, that's what I have to say for today. That's all the things that I wanted to say about the deck. I'm gonna be there. If you do see me, you can come say hi. I really appreciate when people do that. And yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to take pictures or whatever. It doesn't really bother me at all. So that's all I have for today. Thank you all for watching, and have a good day.